Jussie Smollett is an actor who failed his audition for the role of hate crime victim. Hey everybody, John the Other here, John Hembling, obviously. I waited for a long time because I wanted to let it play out before I advanced my own ignorant opinion on it. But now that it's very clear he attempted and failed to orchestrate a hate crime hoax, he's strangely still being praised by some elements of the media and the left as if he's a kind of moral paragon or a hero. Now, I happen to share the view of Mr. Smollett expressed by Professor Gad Saad, who I think used the term execrable cretin, but that's not the point I want to make here today. Smollett is only the latest in a long line of hoaxers. There's also an LGBT activist who burned his own house down, attempted to create a news story about an imaginary anti-LGBTQ arsonist. But Nikki Jolie, who committed that arson, also managed to burn his or her own pets to death in the process. We also have a recent Rolling Stone rape hoax from a few years ago, which attempted to portray the members of a university fraternity as all colluding to enable the gang rape by members of that fraternity. As you might recall, the rape didn't happen, and the party it supposedly happened at also did not happen. And then going back again, there's Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the former head of the International Monetary Fund, who was removed from political life by a rape hoax in which a cleaning woman was paid to claim that she'd been assaulted by Strauss-Kahn. A formerly celebrated CBC broadcaster was removed from his career by a coordinated hoax in which it turned out it wasn't just his accusers lying, it was his accusers coordinating their lies with the assistance of another so-called journalist who branded himself as a media watchdog, and that guy still has his job. But what I'm going to say about Smollett includes all these other fraudsters and a lot more that I haven't bothered to mention. After Jussie Smollett's fake attack is revealed as a hoax, he is being praised for raising awareness of crimes of the type that he staged. And the ethic of that praise is apparently that his lying is justified because of an apparently positive intention to oppose racism or homophobia or whatever. But that moral reasoning is incorrect. To the extent that the motive of these fake hate crimes relate to the crime at all, the motive is the reverse. Now, before I continue, to be fair, sometimes the people faking hate crime hoaxes are motivated by petty reasons, such as getting paid or seeking personal fame or whatever. But the reverse is this big moral motive, and this is the desire to be heroic, opposing a cartoonishly stupid and simple-minded version of either racism or sexism, or oppose some other unrealistic version of thought crime by simplistic cartoon bad guy Klansmen Nazi bigots who don't actually exist. The motive, as much as it sometimes applies to hoaxers like Jussie Smollett, is much more common the motive of the piling on of the media and the we believe crowd. This includes almost every other hashtag movement using the word believe, by the way. These are people who depend for a sense of their own virtue on belief in a cartoonishly foolish concept of Nazis or racists or misogynists or whatever other cartoon villain they want to exist in the real world for them to fight. In fact, they're so desperate for a simplistic imaginary villain that they can hold up in comparison to themselves that they are trying to create that villain in the real world as well as create the harm against innocent people that they can later cry their crocodile tears over to show how virtuous they are. I will refer again to the LGBT activist who burned his or her own pets to death. Jussie Smollett was willing to have two random strangers arrested in service of his fake hate crime, at least until he discovered the two random strangers were his two Jamaican friends who he'd hired. And so long as activists claim we're in a society condoning and encouraging sexual assault, which we now call rape culture, then reporting rapes that never happened where the real person is named as the offender, then these are also fake hate crimes hung around the necks of innocent bystanders. And the motive seems very often to be to make a claim of moral superiority or the virtue of victimhood. And while Smollett might be quite properly on his way to jail, and what he did was commit an actual hate crime himself, I really don't want to give him the sense of gravity and importance, not even as the villain that some people seem to be making him out to be. He's a clownish figure, while the clown media pretends he's doing something noble. But this is a retarded and childish version of morality. And the reason I point this out is that if we treat Jussie Smollett in our commentary as a properly evil person rather than a childish clown idiot, and the people praising his stupidity are seen as evil rather than childish clown idiots, then the suggestion to us is that we are appropriately filled with rage rather than laughing at or dismissing the abject stupidity of it all. Calling Jussie Smollett evil makes you feel better when he's clearly tried to paint somebody of your own skin color or your own political views as the imaginary Nazi, but that feeling good comes at the cost of feeding into other people's hatred of each other. And that's what I'm not willing to do. So, clown rather than evil. Thanks very much for listening, and as always, have a lovely, lovely day.